Awesome. So, yeah, my name's Jessica, and I work for a company called Five Nines. We do IT services there. Basically, what my role is to work with our small and medium-sized businesses to help them budget and allocate their IT expenses. So I work basically in Excel spreadsheets all day long. It's super thrilling and exciting. But basically what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a lot of those same concepts that I use with my clients from a financial standpoint and apply them to a single-person business company. So a lot of you in here are either probably freelancing full-time already, or you've contemplated maybe taking that leap from the 9-to-5 world to becoming a full-time freelancer. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's pretty exciting and thrilling stuff once you start to dip your toes into freelancing and realize, hey, I could be my own boss and I can work from my pajamas all day if I wanted to and work from anywhere. And while all that sounds really good, behind the scenes there's actually a lot more responsibility and a lot more that you take on as a business owner. So today we're going to focus and talk a lot about the financial aspects of that, but when you do start your own business, you tend to wear a lot of hats, as some of you may already know. You're going to be not only maybe the designer or the developer, but you're also going to be the salesperson, and you're going to be the customer service rep when something goes wrong, and you're going to be the HR person, and also along with that is going to come all the financial stuff, right? The CFO of your company, essentially. So we're going to talk a little bit about some strategies there that'll help you guys out. A lot of people are intrigued by starting their own business, but they usually don't do it for one of two reasons. One is they fear that they're going to fail, and the second reason is that they lack the resources to do that. So what that means is they just don't have the financial means maybe to make that jump to full-time freelancing. I'm here to tell you that with a little bit of planning and a little bit of budgeting, you can be successful financially and do this full-time if you desire to. So when we break down, not quite ready for that yet, but when we break down budgeting into its simplest form, we're really just talking about two things, right? We're talking about income and expenses. And I'm going to talk about both those topics and some strategies on how to control both your income and your expenses as you're a full-time freelancer. But before we jump into that, I am going to give you guys a short quiz. It's not graded or anything, so don't worry. I just am interested to hear what your guys' answers are to these. So the first question is going to be, how much should you have saved in an emergency fund? Do you guys think that you need 6 months, 8 months, or 1 year? 8 months? What do you guys think?
They say 6 months, but I think a year if you're going to freelance.
6 months if you're really aggressive.
Yeah. So 6 months, maybe a year if you're going to freelance. So you're right. A lot of financial advisors will say 6 to 8 months of savings. My personal opinion is if you're going to be freelancing, because freelancing tends to be so feast or famine, up and down, 1 month you might have a lot of projects, 1 month you might not, I would suggest trying to get a year's worth of savings in an emergency fund. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it is doable and it is feasible with a little bit of planning and budgeting. Next question is, what do you guys think is the hourly rate of a web designer? This is according to salary.com. 55, 31, or 110?
Well, it depends. Is it freelance or company?
I think
Closer to 110, but you have your own payroll taxes and expenses. So companies usually treat with 55.
yes. So I believe that salary.com is going off of if you work for a company, right? So it is $31 an hour, and I thought that was scary low, especially if you are a freelancer, you're running your own business. Very rarely do you see people charging that type of market rate. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of factors that can dictate whether this rate goes up or down. One can be your location. If you work in a big city versus maybe a small rural town, the market rates are going to be a little bit different, right? But also your education, your experience, your skill set. So if you're not just a web designer, but maybe you're also a social media marketer, you've got some experience doing things on the development side, that's going to drive that rate up to the more value that you bring to the table. How much is self-employment tax? I'll be really impressed if anyone knows this answer because I did not know it before researching it. So this self-employment tax is going to just count your Social Security and Medicare. So it's not your income tax. It is 15.3%. So yeah, this counts your Social Security and your Medicare tax. You still have your state and federal income tax that you need to account for, but this is like shockingly high, right? So this is one of the things that we'll talk about is how to budget for taxes because it is such a big expense as a business owner. And when you work for a company, you're used to having those taxes come out of your paycheck and you don't even really see it or really notice it, at least I don't. So when you're a business owner and you have to budget for that because you have to pay in every quarter, well, I just gave you guys the answer to the next question. We have to pay in every quarter. It's hard to remember and to budget for that unless you're being really intentional about it, right? So the next question was, how often should you pay taxes if you're self-employed? I kind of spoiled it and gave you guys the answer, but it is quarterly. So making sure that you are budgeting. We're going to go through a little budget exercise where it accounts for taxes in there. So. You can, yep. So it is a little bit of a trick question. My husband owns his own business, and he actually just pays annually. A lot of people don't like to pay annually because then you have to pay more, a bigger chunk, not more. I mean, you're still paying the same amount, but you're paying it all at once, right? So it's a little bit harder to budget for. So I just suggest quarterly so that you can kind of pocket away those savings every quarter and make sure that you're kind of staying on track instead of having a big surprise bill at the beginning of the year, more likely. All right, I think this is the last question. What is the max contribution to a SEP IRA retirement account? Is it 20%, 4%, or 8.6%?
No, it was 20% because they just raised it.
So yeah, so bonus question. Who knows what a SEP IRA is? Yes, so it is a type of IRA. This girl back here knows her stuff. You did your research. You should be doing this talk, not me. So SEP IRA is a type of retirement account for self-employed individuals. It stands for Simplified Employee Pension, and it is 20% of your income, or I think a max contribution of like $56,000 a year. It is a type of IRA account different than a Roth or a traditional. And I am going to preface this by saying I'm not a CPA, so like I can't give you retirement fund advice officially, but it's definitely something if you're interested it can be a good option for people who are self-employed and allows you to pocket away a little bit more money than you could in a traditional or a Roth. Now, definitely do your research to make sure you qualify. There's a couple like little gotchas and limitations with a SEP that you don't have with traditional or Roth, so if you have an accountant or a financial advisor, it would be really good to run this across them first before you decide to invest in something like that. But we'll also talk a little bit about how to budget for your retirement and for your savings as well, especially because if you do make that jump from working for a company who maybe offers a 401k to working on your own full-time, you're no longer going to have that employer who's contributing to maybe your retirement or that ability to just automatically have it deducted from your paycheck. So it is something to be thinking about as you make that jump. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about then is income. So again, we're going to break this down into two sections, income and expenses. So as you guys start to look at maybe going full-time with freelancing, a couple things that I want you to think about are, what is your monthly income goal? So you should have a goal starting out of what you want to reach on a monthly basis. Now, know that when you're first starting out, you're probably not going to be able to make that goal right off the bat. It's going to take you some time to build up to it, but you want to have a goal to aim for. And you want to look at it from the perspective of take-home pay. So after taxes, after insurance and savings and et cetera, business expenses, what do you want to be able to take home at the end of the day to pay yourself with and to run your day-to-day living expenses? Another thing you want to think about as a freelancer is whether you want to charge per hour or per project. There's different kind of pricing models and methodologies there, so we'll talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons to each of those. And then as you're looking at your pricing model, the next logical question to ask is, how many clients do you need per month in order to meet that income goal that you've stated for yourself? And then the last piece is just thinking about how you can possibly structure your business in a way to set up recurring revenue each month. Recurring revenue is a really great way to financially stabilize your business, and so we'll talk a little bit about some of those pros as well. So first thing I'm going to do is run you through a little bit of a budget exercise. So we're just going to use a hypothetical here that you have a monthly income goal of $3,000 a month. So at the end of the month, I want to be able to take home $3,000 to pay myself with. So that means I need to find enough clients to pay me $3,000 a month, right? Wrong. You actually need to find enough clients to pay you more than $3,000 a month because we have a bunch of expenses that we need to take out of that. So this is just a really simple calculation that'll get you to around $3,000 a month. It's not going to be exact by any means. There are some IRS calculators on the web, like if you just go to Google and type in IRS calculator, there's some really good ones in there, but they're like kind of complex calculations. So this is just a simple method that you can use that'll get you really, really close to that income goal that you have. So we know that the self-employment tax rate is 15.3%, but then we also know we have income tax on top of that. So typically, people will say to budget around 20% for taxes. So if we take our goal of $3,000 times 20%, that gives us $600. We also know that we want to budget approximately another 20% for retirement or savings. So if we take $3,000 again by 20%, that's another $600. So just for taxes and just for retirement, we want to have $600 each, right? So total of $1,200. Is everyone following me so far on this? Okay. So now I don't need $3,000. I actually need $4,200 because I need that extra $1,200, right? So $3,000 plus $1,200, that gives us $4,200. So I need to bring in $4,200 a month so that I can take home $3,000 a month, right? Wrong. I also need health insurance, and I also need to account for business expenses. So a quick Google search shows us that health insurance averages about $440 a month for an individual. Now, that's give or take, right? You might be able to find a really good deal on health insurance, or maybe your spouse has health insurance through their company and you can save a little bit of money here. But if we want to just use a budget number, let's use $440 a month. And then let's just use an even round number for business expenses of $500 a month. So this could include like website hosting fees. This could include maybe you have LLC insurance. Maybe you have an accountant on retainer that you pay for. Internet usage or internet costs to run your business. Maybe some software licensing for invoice software, etc. So let's just say $940 a month for business expenses and health insurance. So now we need to take that $4,200 from before, add in the $940 for insurance and business expenses, and we get $5,140. So that means I have to have $5,140 in order to be able to take home $3,000 at the end of the month after I pay my taxes, after I pay my insurance, my retirement, etc. That really added up, didn't it? And so if you go into freelancing thinking, I just need to make $3,000 a month, that number is going to dwindle down quite a bit after all those expenses. So you really actually want to shoot for a number that's higher than that. And again, this isn't going to be an exact science because some of those numbers may change for your individual situation, but this is just kind of a good baseline to go off of. Now this just kind of counts those business expenses and those things that are non-negotiable from a business side. You'll still have living expenses and personal expenses outside of that, right? The next thing that we need to consider is our per hour pricing versus per project pricing. How many of you in here, if you are freelancing, how many of you charge per hour? Let's see a couple hands raised. How many of you guys charge per project? All right. So give us some firsthand experience. Why do you charge per project versus per hour?
So I have shifted. I used to be an hourly based freelancer, and I started learning that depending on the client I had and where they were in their business, the hourly rate that I had may be. People get scared when they see hourly rates, and can tend to use that as a gauge for whether or not they can afford you or not. So I turned the conversation to value, and I look at what the product I can do can help them as far as how it can impact their business, and try to bring the cost to a value proposition, and I can usually average better than at my hourly rate if I go that way. That's
Yeah.
me, though.
That's great. And I've had a similar experience in our business that I work in IT. We started out with hourly-based pricing as well. And what I found is that a lot of customers would come back and kind of question the hours. And be like, did it really take you 2 hours to do this? Or, what's this, for an hour here? And then they want to start to negotiate the work, and they focus too much on the hours and the work and not enough on the value. So if you can, I really, really do highly suggest doing more of a per project based pricing. You still can use an hourly calculation to come to that per project price. For example, if you know you want to charge $50 an hour and it's a 50-hour project, you're just going to tell the client it's $2,500, right? You're not going to break it all down for them and say, well, this is going to take me 2 hours and this takes me another 10. You just let them know, like, hey, for $2,500, I'm going to do this, and here's the scope of work for that. Now, when you're first starting out as a freelancer, it might be kind of hard to guess how many hours a project's going to take you, because maybe you don't have as much experience doing those types of projects. So you might struggle a little bit on what's a 10-hour project versus what's a 40-hour project, right? But as you get more experience and as you do more projects, you definitely can get better at estimating the amount of time that those projects are going to take you and be able to get a really, really good baseline for your per project pricing. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to jump into per project pricing right away. Just like Matt, a lot of people start off with hourly based pricing and then they move into doing project based pricing in the future. Another way, or another tip that I have that is really helpful from a financial stability standpoint is packaged pricing. So when we're budgeting and we're running our own business, it's really hard to know what your income's going to be in any given month, right? So if we're just doing per project pricing and we're taking on any client that we can, we might have one project one month and we might have 10 projects the next month, and one project might be $500 and another one might be $5,000. You really never know where you're going to land, right? If you do package pricing, what's really nice is you can really hone in and focus on marketing and looking for specific clients that fit into these two categories. And what it allows you to do is to know exactly what you need to bring in every single month to hit that monthly income goal, right? So if I do two packages, maybe one's going to be a smaller $1,000 package that's just we just need to refresh the website, maybe do a couple design things. I know it's going to take me less than 20 hours. And then I do another package that's a little bit bigger, it's a full website redesign from scratch, it's a $3,000 project. I know now that every single month, at minimum, I need to have 5 of those $1,000 projects to hit my monthly income goal of $3,000, right? Because remember, I actually need $5,100 before taxes and insurance and retirement and business expenses to be able to bring home $3,000. So I know now that I need to goal for at least 5 $1,000 projects, or I can do 2 $3,000 projects and exceed my monthly income goal. So it's a lot easier to target down and budget for when you can get to more of a package pricing scenario. Now, another one of my favorite ways to help build financial stability as a freelancer is going to be through a recurring revenue model. So, with freelancing, things can be feast or famine. One month I might have one project, one month I might have 10 projects. When you have recurring revenue, what this allows you to do is this allows you to take the focus away from always looking for new clients and new projects to actually building a really solid foundation and client base that pays you a fixed monthly fee every single month. And then over time, that slowly grows, right? So a lot of freelance web designers and developers will actually build maintenance packages where they might do plugin updates for your website or security updates. Maybe they're updating content or doing minor changes to your site. And this can really range anywhere from $50 a month to $300 a month or even more. I mean, the options are really limitless here. But on average, for a one-man or one-woman show, you're going to see somewhere in this ballpark range for monthly packages. So that means once I start to get maybe 5 or 10 clients who are paying me $100 a month, I now have anywhere from $500 to $1,000 every single month that I can count on. So now instead of getting 5 of those small $1,000 projects, I only need to maybe get 4 of those $1,000 projects in order to meet my monthly income goals. But if I get 5, that's even better because it means I exceed my monthly income goal. So there's some really good resources. I know Flywheel does a great job of working with freelancers and agencies on setting up recurring revenue. If this is something you're ever interested in, definitely recommend going that route. So now we know what our monthly income goal is, or how to set our monthly income goal. We know how to calculate what we need after taxes and all those expenses. We know basically how we want to price things, the benefits of each, and how many clients we need in order to get there. Let's talk a little bit about expenses. So I'm going to categorize these personal expenses into kind of 2 categories. One is like these essential expenses that we need, right? Like we need a place to live, we need food, utilities, etc. Like these are things that you don't have a whole lot of control over. Yeah, maybe you can move to like a cheaper apartment, and we can do some things like shop for cheaper car insurance or a better cell phone plan. That'll save us a little bit of money. But overall, like most people need to have these things, right, on a month-to-month basis. So these are things that I would encourage you to kind of look through and see, is there an opportunity to maybe get cheaper car insurance or a better cell phone plan? Or a lot of utility companies offer kind of programs where you can be on a fixed rate so your utilities don't fluctuate month to month. Those are all things to really look at. And what I would suggest is, as you start down this journey of freelancing, go back 6 months in your bank accounts and look at every single thing you've spent money on. What was your average in these areas? But also, how much were you spending on non-essential expenses? So non-essential meaning like going out to eat or going out for drinks with your friends, going shopping, vacations, subscriptions. You guys, this adds up, like Netflix, Hulu, Spotify. I don't know, there's like a subscription for everything nowadays. Like every app I sign up for is like for $2.99 a month, you can have all these other features. So look at your subscriptions. Take a good hard look at all your expenses for the past 6 months and be honest with yourself. Do you really need all these things? And where can you cut? When you're going to freelance, remember, we want to have 1 year of emergency savings. Look at ways where you can reduce or cut these expenses and put that money into your emergency savings account. That's going to help you long term, and it doesn't mean you can't ever go on a vacation ever again, but maybe for the next 12 months as you're building your business, you sacrifice going on vacation until you're in a little bit better financially stable spot. So, to kind of recap, these are my top 5 tips for financial stability as a freelancer. The first thing is just have a stated monthly income goal. Have a plan, know what you want to bring in. That's step 1. If you have a plan and you have a goal, you can start to work backwards from that and be able to hit that goal and have specific targets for it. Make sure you're budgeting for taxes, retirement, insurance, and all business expenses. At very minimum, it's just these 4 buckets that we need to be looking at to get started out. Make sure you're structuring your business with set price packages and offer recurring revenue for the most financially stable method for your business. Have a 1-year emergency fund saved up, and then reduce or eliminate expenses so that you can contribute to that emergency fund. Bonus tip. Make sure you have separate business accounts, bank accounts from your personal accounts. You want to keep that stuff separate. And Matt and I were actually just talking right before this, and he had a really cool idea that he took from a book. What was the book called again, Matt? Profit First. And it's where you have actually multiple bank accounts for different areas. So like profit, taxes, and then like salary for yourself, right? So and that's definitely something you could go for. I think in the beginning, if you just want to keep it simple, make sure you have personal and business bank account. And then if you want to start separating things out after that, once you start making a good stream of income and revenue, definitely, something you could check out. So I know I just gave you guys a boatload of information, a lot of numbers, a lot of tax talk, which is always so thrilling. But any questions that you guys have on any of this?
I noticed that you didn't cover into certain insurances that are needed. Minimum, you're going to need your E&O insurance, and then even if it's just a term life policy, a lot of times look for a term life policy that can allow you for business liquefaction too. So that's kind of
Yes.
something that's pretty important. You know, it's obviously not everybody can afford like an IUL or something like that, but term is a great way to confirm liquidity if you need to take financing to expand your business, especially. Plus, you know, if something does happen and you do pass away or something like that, it'll provide funds for your, you know, your shareholders and stakeholders and your family members to settle your accounts.
That is really, really good advice. Would you mind sharing like maybe an average amount of what you think that type of insurance would cost you?
Oh, just a basic term life policy can run $20 to $40. A lot of them look people out quite a ways too. I've had to look into this before. And they do offer convertibility too. So you can also get like a universal life that'll last your whole life. It's just the payment goes down, but you don't have to worry about losing your insurance if you retire. So something like that. And then E&O insurance, that's errors and omissions. And it used to be it was just for like realtors and you know, independent salesmen, but it's pretty much for anybody who freelances now. You can get those for like $20 a month. So for like an extra $50 a month, you know, covering your bases.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice. And there's a lot of things that we don't think about that maybe if we work full-time right now, our employer covers, like 401k is the example I used here, but yeah, like my employer covers accidental dismemberment, disability, life insurance, that sort of thing. So those are definitely things, if you want to keep those, which is highly recommended, you know, you got a budget for that as well. Yeah. Any other advice? I know that you've made that jump, you said, from freelancing to full-time and do that now. So any advice as you were starting out that you thought was really helpful or you wish you would have known?
Well, you know, one of the things that is tough is trying to think the numbers. And so the package-based pricing, that's how I tell people. It's easy to predict because it's flat rate, and it's easy to project the time you're going to spend. That has simplified my business a ton, and it makes the buying decision easy for the customer because they see what they're getting. A package is something that you can present and say, this is what you're getting. And I use photographers as examples all the time because photographers are freelancers. But if you're getting a senior package or if you're getting a wedding package, they have it put together with a flat price. You just shop through their site, figure out which package you need for you, and it's easy to buy that way.
Yeah, I think that a thing that I see freelancers get caught up in a lot of times, especially in the beginning, is like, I just need to get any business I can. Like any client, if they want me to mow their lawn, I'll mow, like maybe not that extreme, but you know, they just want to take on any project possible because you want the money, especially as you're kind of building up your business. And what happens is as you get a little bit more mature in your business, in your freelance set, you can start to be a little bit more choosy. And it's not necessarily that you're turning away business, but you're focusing on business that's good for your skill set and not necessarily just taking everything that comes along and saying, all right, this is my sweet spot and this is what I focus on for this client. Yeah?
So did you find before you made that jump, or as you made that jump from quitting your 9 to 5 to working freelance, did you hit a particular number that said, yes, I need to be at this level before I can do it? And was that number equal to what you would need?
Yeah. What's your experience been with that?
So I freelanced part-time for a long time. And kind of like you said, I was kind of building up my cash reserves, which is important. I mean, because just from a mental state, to know that you
have it to fall back on.
Because you have to fall back on. So I always tell people, go slow if you need to build that up, because long-term it's more healthy.
Yeah, I think at minimum, as you're looking to make that jump, I mean, you can make it whenever you're ready, right? But I think in order to feel financially stable and being able to make that jump, you should have that 1-year emergency fund saved up. And no, typically, obviously it can change, but typically you want to give yourself a 3 to 6 month window where you know you're probably not going to make, like if your goal is to take home $3,000 a month, you're probably not going to do that the first 6 months that you're freelancing full time. But you have that emergency fund there for a reason, and you're working towards reducing your expenses so that you can live on a little bit lower income for at least part of the year until you ramp up and start to build up your client base.
I'm sorry. I have a little nitpick with your, how you constructed the expenses.
Oh, yeah.
Assuming a 12-month savings, there's no provision for savings in your model. So if I have large expenses, there's no monthly provision for me to
Refill that bucket. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, because we budget for 20% taxes and 20% retirement, but there was no like specific category for savings, right? Yeah.
You have your engine blows up, and you have to replace your engine, and it's $2,000. You need
Yep.
some.
Where do you get that money from?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're taking out your 12-month emergency, but then you need to
Put it back in. Yep, that is
You should have a
100%.
savings component.
Yep, and I kind of lumped retirement and savings as one. I just put 20%, and you can do 10% in retirement, 10% in savings. I should have been a little bit more clear about that, but
Well, there's
yeah.
problems with the IRS when you're putting things in retirement, IRAs, SEPs, and other things on how you get that out.
Exactly, yep.
So
yeah, you
need
can't take it out.
You need
A separate
money you can
account.
grab whenever you want it for whatever
Liquid,
reason.
yep. Yes, 100%. Yeah. So to your point, you want to have a separate savings account, and that's that emergency fund, right? But you also want to make sure that you're contributing it to it regularly. So again, for that budgeting example, it was 20%. You can break that up how you want, but if you want to do 30% or even 40%, you totally can, and still use that same calculation to get to the overall number. Your number is just going to be higher at the end, right? But that is a good point. Make sure you're distributing to both your retirement and your liquid savings that can be taken out in kind of those emergency scenarios. Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts, feedback?
I want to address something.
Yeah.
We always get asked to do things like for the exposure or do
Oh, gosh, yeah, gotta love that. My husband gets asked this all the time.
Red flag, run away.
Yes.
Because I found that, yeah, I have to ask, who are the stakeholders besides you? Because, it's like, what do other people say? Because I once had to turn down my own sister-in-law, and I'm like,
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line, right? So,
what have other people said that have really been good for shutting up before the exposures and because
Oh,
we're families?
I tell them, can you walk into a lawyer's office and ask me for, can I try you out for 30 minutes and see if the services are any good?
And they're like, yeah, they give free consultations.
Well,
Yeah.
it's something you can actually take and.
yeah. I think you have to look at that. So my husband runs his own business. We were talking a little bit about this, and his business model is very attractive to a lot of people because he works with wild animals, essentially. So a lot of people are like, want to hire him to come out and do events, and they're like, well, can you come do this event, but do it for free, because you'll get a lot of exposure. And sometimes he does do them for free. For example, if it's like for a charity, they're a nonprofit, so they'll do like they have a charitable fund that they do so many events per year. Also, he looks at it and
That's a tax deduction.
true, yeah. And there's also opportunities if it's hitting your target market or your target customer profile, it may be worthwhile to give something for free or discount. So I always like to negotiate when someone wants something for free. Instead, say, hey, I can't do this for free, but I could give you a discount in exchange for the exposure. Here's what I can do. And then you're meeting them somewhat in the middle, and they might be open to that. So that's always a way you can respond as well, especially, like I said, if it does hit your target customer or it does give you exposure that could bring in more potential revenue for you. If it's not, and it's just someone wanting a favor to get something for free, then you just have to find a polite way to turn them down.
If you feel confident in what you do, to borrow a line from The Dark Knight, if you're good at something, never do it.
Yeah. Yep. You got to value your own business, right? Because if you don't value your own business, your customers won't value your business.
Yeah, and the problem is too, when you do it for free, they think, oh, well, she's a volunteer too. So there's always somebody who gets really nitpicky, like, well, I want a slightly lighter shade of fuchsia. And it gets to the point, well, if you don't do this, I'll give you a bad Yelp review.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will say from experience, and I agree with you. I think you just have to use your judgment in terms of who you decide to help. But as a general rule, the people who pay me more complain less.
Mm-hmm.
And And that is across the board. The people that hire me at a higher rate are less nitpicky. They don't complain.
Yeah.
The people that want something for free are the ones that will ride your back forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always kind of tell when they start to bargain right away, you know, it's like,
How they, I always used to say how a customer is during the pre-sales process, so before they actually sign on the dotted line commit, how they are in that process is a great indicator of what type of customer they're going to be. Yeah.
That actually brings up a very good point. I used to work in ticket sales actually for this university, and one of the biggest things is the people who pay the least complain the most.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a customer that you're negotiating a lower price for, and they're gonna keep pushing for more for less. So if you have someone that pays the price that you set, they're gonna be much more happy with the product you do versus how much they get from us.
Okay, then that brings up a newbie question. Is it better to turn that customer down, or is it better to take the work? Because if that's your one person that week, do you take that job or do you turn it down?
I would.
Okay, so I paid my dues, and I did do that. You're right. Yeah, I mean sometimes when you're getting started and you need to, this is what I tell people: you need to get some wins under your belt, so that you can tell stories, so that you can use that to find other clients. And honestly, you've got to start somewhere. Yeah, so yeah, you do that. But one of the things that I try to coach people on is that you're valuable, and whether you're just getting started out or not, I mean, people need to respect you. They need to respect your expertise. And so I try not to let people just run wild with expectations. So setting expectations is a very, very big key so that they know exactly what they're paying for. So they just don't think they've got a blank check and they can just go all over the place, buy a website and then keep adding stuff and changing stuff. That's not fair to you.
Yeah, I think when you're first starting out, you have the luxury of time where you probably not have a bunch of people lining up at your door looking for jobs, right, or looking for projects. So you have the luxury to take on maybe some of those clients that are going to be a little bit more difficult. I think you draw the line on anyone who's going to be disrespectful or who's going to abuse your services or anything like that. And you may have a couple bad apples that'll give you some learning experiences for the future, like, okay, watch out for this type of person in the future, like that's a red flag, that sort of thing. But you only kind of get that through experience.
has anybody else ever done the coffee test where you see how they behave in a coffee shop? No. When you're looking at the potentially problem clients and you're not sure, ask to meet them for coffee to iron out the details and see how they order their coffee, how many, when Harry met Sally details they put in it.
Yeah.
See if they're turning their nose up at the table, things like that. Especially if you can find like a little sit-down coffee shop with a server, see how they, and that can tell you. And if they cross any of your bugaboos on that, they're going to be crossing that with you.
That's great.
Yeah, you can learn a lot from people when you take them out of, so,
And the
yep.
next person who orders a crazy coffee drink, it's like, okay, that's going to be very specific.
Yeah, and if the drink's wrong, see how they handle it.
That is my tool of the week. Thank you.
That's
Just
awesome.
say, I want to find a coffee shop where you can get a barista on your side and say, bring the drink out wrong and see what happens.
Yep, yes.
Oh, we put nutmeg on instead of cinnamon. Give him a cookie, not a biscuit.
The service is everything about who they are.
Yes, yeah.
I think that the price point too comes down to if I'm standing in a store and I'm looking at curling irons, one's $50, one's $30, I'm going to automatically assume that $50 one is a better curling iron. They could be exactly the same. Well, I think the same happens when you set your prices. When I first started, I was on Upwork and I raised my prices and suddenly got more work. And
Yeah.
it's because they assumed because I was cheap, I was terrible. And I think that happens sometimes with your customers that pay more, assume you know what you're doing, where if you were cut right, they're going to be like, I'm going to, probably just no waste.
I'll take it one step further. Actually, it's called positioning.
Yeah.
And I learned positioning from a funeral director. And I went in to do his website one time, true story. And I'm standing, he takes me in, he's giving me the tour of the facility, right? And he takes me into the showroom where he's got his caskets lined up on the wall. And he goes, okay, here's the pine box. It's X dollars. Here's the next step up. It's quite a bit more than the pine box, but it's got a few more bells and whistles. It's X dollars. And then right on top of that was the Cadillac. It's got the satin and the gold trim and the whole 9 yards. He goes, guess which one people put most of the time?
Cadillac.
B.
Oh, B, the B, yeah.
B. He goes, people don't want the pine box, but they don't want the Cadillac.
Yeah.
He goes, they want value, but they don't want to feel like they have to spend. So when you position your products, I try to always say have 3 products to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Have one where you put the kitchen sink in it. Have one that's like bare bones, and then have one that's kind of the sweet spot. Like you said, you know where your time is, and make sure that you're getting the price that you need to make your. And it's from a funeral director. How about that?
You guys are awesome.
I mean, this is a topic that I feel like you could talk about for hours, and like finances are. The finances, aren't always maybe the most exciting thing to think about, but they are important. And as designers, a lot of you guys probably think in a more creative and artistic way, and crunching numbers isn't necessarily fun, but it does help to have a plan and to know what to do from a financial standpoint so that you feel a little bit more secure and safe in your business, right? And there's so much we could cover with this. Yeah. Yeah.
How have you ever handled the actual bartering of services? Like, say you build a website for CPA in exchange for so many,
Mm-hmm.